The New England Patriots have beaten the New York Jets. We're going to talk about that and more here on No Buts About It. What's up, everyone? My name is Josh Butts. I'm here in Indiana. Stan, the Jet fan, is in Florida, I think, actually. So, not New York, not New Jersey. Still in Florida, right?
Yes, sir. I live here now.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. You moved around quite a bit on me a few times, but I thought you were pretty settled into Florida now. Before we get started, Stan, I gotta do a little bit of a promotion here, and that is on YouTube. 96% of our watch time is coming from people that aren't subscribed. And that means that some of these people who we are very thankful for watching YouTube and supporting the channel may be missing out on news because they aren't subscribed to the channel. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any news. I've been trying to post as many news updates as I can. They just had a bunch of injuries that were announced that I have not posted yet. But I will do the full injury report like I usually do on Saturdays. And so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Okay, Stan. Your New York Jets played their division rival, New England Patriots. Let's just initial thoughts following the game, less than 24 hours later.
Well, from a football perspective, I think it's making a little more sense. Some of the decisions the Jets have made, moving on from Sauce and Quinnen. This defense is really good at stopping the run, but very poor at stopping the pass. And we've seen that throughout this season. But looking at a lot of the acquisitions they've made, it's becoming more and more obvious. I think this game for me last night was kind of the culmination of the type of defense they're building. It's a defense that keeps you in games. Now, the inverse of that is your offense isn't really doing a whole lot to take advantage of that. Because this game, at the end of it, it was a 2-score game. It was a 1-score game for most of it, right? It was a close game. The Jets were in it, but that offense wasn't able to pull it together in order to get the Jets that victory. So when I look at that, I think it's a good building block for the future, and I hope that our team can do a good job of, expanding upon this, Darren Muji specifically, getting the right people on offense into the future. But looking at the stark difference of this defense versus the Robert Saleh defense, it really, really sticks out. I remember those Robert Saleh games, the Jets defense would be in it up until you got into the fourth quarter and the other team was able to run through them all day and night, right? The last 2 years, even 2 years ago, we had still the best defense in the NFL when it came to preventing yards, preventing points. But you still saw when other teams were able to run against us, they were able to do it pretty easily. Now this year, we saw the Patriots, who've been running the ball well all year, really, really struggle against us. And I think it gives me a little bit of hope into this, this first year of this very long, I anticipate, rebuild for the Jets. I think it's going to be about 3 years. 3 seasons from now, you'll be able to really compete. But it makes me feel a little more confident in that moving into the future. Now, the game itself, I definitely wanted to win, obviously, especially against the Patriots more than any other team. I was telling some of my friends before the game started, and most of my friends there who cared about either team were Patriots fans, unfortunately. But when we're looking at this sort of game, it's like you have a divisional, rivalry, that extra spice in the matchup. Both of these coaches had been part of the rivalry at players, which made it a little more exciting for me as a fan watching the game. But you definitely saw some, of that traditional domination the Patriots have had basically since the end of the Sanchez days against the Jets. And it's not a great sign in that sense. You really hoped that Aaron Glenn was going to be able to at least game plan enough to keep that offense a little more down. In the end, the Drake Maye offense scored 27 points, which is about what they usually do. They're usually in the high 20s, low 30s, and they performed on average what you expect them to do. So I really hoped that Aaron Glenn would be able to kind of stifle that Drake Maye MVP season we're seeing coming upon us. But unfortunately, we didn't really see that.
Yeah, so I have to push back against something here a little bit. You said that the Jets did well against the run, but TreVeyon Henderson had 2 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown as a rookie. And he's kind of had a breakout year. I originally drafted him in fantasy and then dropped him because Mike Vrabel wasn't playing him, and now he's been going crazy the last 2 weeks. But, like, how can you, I guess, in my mind, allowing a running back to have even just 2 rushing touchdowns, I wouldn't come away saying that the defense played well in the run game. So can you kind of defend that for me?
Yeah, so play to play, they just overperformed against the run. There was a lot of tackles for losses. There's a lot of run stuffing, especially through the inside of the field. Yeah, he scored 2 touchdowns, but you could score 2 touchdowns and still not have your best game. Look at the yardage, look at the actual plays, and I think it's at least visually watching the game, the Jets did dominate in terms of the run game.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of film, I don't have anything for him, but I will say his yards per attempt was 3.3, which, to your point, isn't a huge. They're not letting a lot of big runs out, but still, I don't know that I would be super in on the Jets' run defense yet. If the draft was tomorrow, say we're in April, first round, are you drafting someone on defense or offense? It sounds like you're going offense.
Yeah, I think Darren Muji specifically, he seems like someone who really wants to build the offense through the draft. And that's another thing, going back to the old regime with Joe Douglas, he really liked building the defense for the draft. And we saw year after year, even when we saw the Jets offense struggling, he would go for like a Will McDonald, who I love Will McDonald, but he went for a guy like that to add to the number 1 defense in the NFL when we had so many holes in offense. I think Darren Muji is going in a different direction. But just on the point of the run game, I think just by watching the film, by watching the game, it was pretty obvious to me that the Jets defense was very good at stopping the run, and the Patriots had one of their worst, like just visually, run games there. There was at least 3 or 4 plays where I think it was all Henderson. Maybe there was someone else involved there. Was at the cusp of a breakthrough, but like the linebacker gets in to make a stop, a defensive back gets in to make a stop, and those were very big plays that stopped another touchdown or 2. With the rushing touchdowns, that's not how they got down the field. It was fully through the pass. Watching the game, they got down the field through that, and then they relied more on their run game in the final couple of yards of the field. But when you look at TreVeyon Henderson's performance, he definitely, despite having those touchdowns, did not have his best game as a rusher. Not as a scorer, not as overall how much he contributed to the team, but as a rusher, his rushing was less effective last night.
I will say, watching the game, Will McDonald and Quincy Williams definitely were in the backfield a lot. They made their presence known last night. So that's definitely something I would think Jets fans would be happy about, especially after losing 2 key players like Quinnen and Sauce. But speaking of those trades, someone who you were, I don't know if excited's the right word, but at least intrigued by, was A.D. Mitchell. And he made his debut last night. And last week, you were talking about him possibly being the wide receiver too, and I was a little hesitant. And, to his credit, A.D. Mitchell is a guy I was excited about with the Colts when he got drafted. Reggie Wayne, who's the Colts wide receiver coach, former Colts wide receiver, he said he hated that he lost A.D. Mitchell, that he loved A.D. Mitchell. Garrett Wilson has said good things about A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell didn't have the greatest debut. So I wanted to know, what were your thoughts in watching A.D. Mitchell? Has your opinion of A.D. Mitchell changed in the last week? Now that you've seen him play in a Jets uniform, just kind of give me your thoughts there.
You did buffer a little bit on my end, so I didn't completely hear that. But if I'm getting you right, you were just asking me to talk about A.D. Mitchell, what I thought about him. Is that correct? Or
yeah, now that you've seen his debut in a Jets uniform, just kind of what were your thoughts there? Do you still have faith in him? Or are you just kind of like, this is another failed wide receiver 2 attempt? Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, for the wide receiver 2 conversation, I still don't think he's that far off that. And we don't have a wide receiver 2. That's the big problem with that passing offense right now. You have Garrett Wilson, who's now out for at least 4 weeks. and you don't have anyone who could really take in that void. You don't have anyone who gets close to Garrett Wilson's level on the team. Now, you saw Mason Taylor take a pretty big part of the offense, and he performed well overall. He had some mistakes here and there, but, a very good, promising game for a young tight end. But that wide receiver 2 spot, I think it's still just as open to A.D. Mitchell as it is to John Mechie, who I think had a really good performance. He showed a lot of promise to me. He reminded me a lot of Braxton Berrios, who you might remember I was a big fan of back in the day. He had a lot of that same kind of jumpy, really good behind the line of scrimmage. He made good plays ahead of the line of scrimmage too, with his feet in the open field. I liked a lot of what I saw from Mechie, and I think maybe he could be more of the wide receiver too. It wouldn't be necessarily like an XY sort of thing, wide receiver wise, but just as who can have the second most targets on the team. I think John Mechie made a pretty good case for that to be him the next couple of weeks. With A.D. Mitchell, everyone's talking about the 3 drops, and I would say one of those drops was not his fault. The one towards the end of the game where he had to kind of switch his body around, I think just the fact that he got his hands on that ball was impressive enough. That was a pretty poor throw, and it's never – as a fan watching it, we never really know what the intention for that play was. Maybe that throw was supposed to be there, and then A.D. Mitchell just didn't know the playbook well enough. We don't know that. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there because that was a tough catch. I don't think more than 5 receivers in the NFL make, right? Like, that was really tough, switching your body around, getting your hand on it. The kind of like bullet pass drop, that one I don't fully blame him for. It was not a great throw. It was just too much power on it. For if he just, if Justin Fields did a little bit lighter, I think that would be a catch. But to me, the worst part was that big game-changing play that would have put A.D. Mitchell down at the 15 or something. And he beats Christian Gonzalez. He runs the route perfectly, right? For that sort of route, you cannot do a better job getting the space there. And then Justin Fields gives him a pretty easy catch, I thought. And he drops it there. In the moment, I actually thought it was not a great catch. Watching the replay, though, a great throw. Watching the replay, though, that was on a dime. Like, you really can't get that throw that much better. And really impressive throw from Justin Fields. I did not see him having that sort of a throw in this game, especially looking at those last few weeks that have been rough, except the Cincinnati Bengals game. So when I'm looking at A.D. Mitchell, that to me was a big issue, more than the other 2 drops. That drop specifically, where you do everything right, but you just can't get it down in the end. It reminds me a little bit of Lazard in the early days, where he was having all those drops after getting open. It reminds me a little of Aaron Smith, who struggles with that and has continued to struggle with that through the season. So it's definitely an issue. And can he be a wide receiver 2 without improving on that? Definitely not. But assuming that some of that's coming from learning a new playbook, getting used to a new team, and then also he was basically the wide receiver 1. That was the role he played last night. And he comes onto this team with Garrett Wilson, very obviously the wide receiver 1. He comes out as a player who's had a kind of like failed career, trying to have a resurgence. I don't fully blame him for that yet. Now, with 2 more games, 3 more games down the season, seeing what he can do, I think we'll get a better idea of it. But I'd say I'm cautiously optimistic, same as before, that we can get a wide receiver 2. I think his peak is as a wide receiver 2. Another point I just want to make before we move on from A.D. Mitchell is that in those plays, his footwork was great. His route running was great. And maybe he misunderstood some of the plays there, but at least in terms of what he was doing to get open, that job was very well done by him.
Yeah, I think what annoyed Colts fans the most about him was, as you just said, he's a fantastic route runner, has great footwork. The ball hits his hands a lot, but he just wasn't able to secure the ball. He had 6 targets last night, 1 reception for 10 yards. But as you said, he was effectively the wide receiver 1 as well. So that's some added pressure on a new offense. So I'm rooting for him. I rooted for him when he was with the Colts. I hope he figures it out. He's got the talent. I think if he figures out how to catch the ball, he's going to be dangerous in the NFL. But he just hasn't gotten to that point yet. But his route running is fantastic. That's a good point. Let's move on to the Patriots side of the ball. I want to know your thoughts on you said you were surrounded by Patriots fans last night. I requested a photo from our friend Hannah about her buffalo dip, but she did not. She's not responded yet, so I can't use the photo. But Patriots fandom around Drake Maye. Is he the MVP this year? And I assume you were with Hannah last night watching the game. Did you get any buffalo chicken dip? Did you follow the rules?
I did take some buffalo chicken dip. I did not say the Drake May line. I will say it was in my apartment, so I'm allowed to eat any food in my apartment without saying anything about Drake May. To the MVP point, I think, yeah, he's definitely had an MVP season. I think that goes without saying, really. I mean, looking around the NFL, who else is up there? I thought this would have been Josh Allen's year to really stamp his foot down. I thought the Bills would be undefeated or very close to it. I thought they'd have like one loss at this part of the season. But there's been a couple of gaffes from Josh Allen. That Dolphins game, pretty rough. Drake May, I think, is the MVP. And looking at last night's game, I know you somewhat disagreed with me on the running game part of it, but Drake May was not really helped that much by the running game last night. He did the hard work. And you talked about Will McDonald, Quincy Williams getting back there. Basically everyone on that Jets D-line but Michael Clemens was doing a good job of getting back there. And Drake May was fantastic in the pocket. I mean, there's not a whole lot of quarterbacks who have that amount of awareness. And yeah, he got sacked I don't know how many times, but there was quite a few should have been sacks there where Drake May's pocket awareness got him out of it. The Patriots also, I don't believe they have the O-line people say they do. I think a lot of that goes to Drake May being able to navigate it, being able to make the right passes. One final point on Drake May is he's very good at finding that second read option. I think it was Mac Hollins a lot of the night. And when his first guy was taken, he went straight to Mac. He went straight to whoever it was on the team that he had to get the ball to. And if you look at that Patriots wide receiver room, they went from being very, very bad 2 years ago to slightly better last year, but not much better, to looking like a very, very good wide receiver room. And what did they do? They added Stephon Diggs, great move, and they added Mac Hollins. Like I don't think a lot of this is just on the Patriots organization. I think Drake May just did the job of elevating that entire team. And as much as I hate to say it, there are some similarities in him and TB12 before him for the Patriots.
Yeah, okay, so Drake May, to give people who may not know a little bit of context here, his stat line is nine wins, 2 losses, currently leading the NFL because they played Thursday Night Football. 2,836 yards, 71.9% completion rate, which is just insane. And then 20 passing touchdowns to 5 interceptions, which is also pretty insane. So he's having a great season. Mind you, all this as a second-year quarterback. His wide receivers, as you just pointed out, aren't anyone, flashy. Like Stephon Diggs is the wide receiver 1, which, 5 years ago would have been a much bigger deal, but now he's older, obviously. They made Demario Pop Douglas look amazing. He struggled when Mac Jones was the quarterback and when they were going through all those quarterback transitions. So he's making names out of people now. Mac Hollins has always been a guy I like. He's a guy who's been around the league a ton. And yeah, his awareness in the pocket is very impressive, especially for a second-year quarterback. Watching him last night, he knew when to climb up in the pocket. He didn't make a ton of stupid plays. There were some tight frames that he threw the ball into, but it never really was in a spot where I felt like the defender could get the ball, if that makes sense. It was just this is a tight window, and my guy's going to be the only one who can catch it, which is very impressive for a guy his age. He's only 23 years old, so he's already making those throws, and he's in competition for MVP with really only Matthew Stafford is the only other quarterback who's in the running. Now, I've got another guy who I would think should be considered in the MVP race, and that would be Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. And Jonathan Taylor, my boy, he has 100. He leads the NFL in rushing attempts, yards, touchdowns, and first down rushing. He has 189 attempts, 1,139 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 58 first downs. So he's my guy that I have. And people say, well, what about Saquon Barkley? He didn't win MVP last year. Well, I'm pretty sure if my math is correct and I remember correctly, yes, I do. Saquon Barkley had 3 rushing touchdowns last year. So Jonathan Taylor already has more rushing touchdowns this year than what Saquon had all of last year. So it'll be interesting to watch that MVP race. Do you think Jonathan Taylor could beat out Drake Maye, or do you think Drake Maye pretty much has this locked up?
I think Jonathan Taylor should beat out Drake Maye, but I think just the fact that he's a running back and it's a lot harder as a non-quarterback to win that award, I think that's going to give it to Drake Maye. I don't like if there was more negative parts of the season for the Patriots, if there was like one or two, like if there was like one true stinker from Drake Maye, like Josh Allen, what he did against the Dolphins, or Justin Fields has done countless times. If there was like one game like that, I think maybe Jonathan Taylor has a better path. But as of right now, I just don't see much of an argument. Even with Stafford, like I don't think Stafford is doing as much to elevate his roster as Drake Maye is for his roster. Just one point about I kind of mentioned TB12 at one point. My reference to that, just to be clear, is not about like his playing style or his talent level. It's more so about the way he elevates his wide receiver rooms, like TB12 did back in the day.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's a good point because you look at the Rams, and they obviously have a fantastic team all around. You know, Devontae Adams is the wide receiver 2 on that Rams team right now, behind Puka Nacua, who is either leading the league in receptions and receiving yards or is very close to it. But yeah, Drake Maye, like we just said, doesn't really have that star wide receiver right now, other than Stephon Diggs, who, again, I don't know that we can still consider him a star anymore. He had a fantastic game on Thursday, though. So that's a very good point. So I'm what Hannah to respond. Hannah's not responding. So, Hannah, if you listen to this later, you should have responded. Could have included your photo. But you did not say that you love Drake Maye to get your buffalo chicken dip?
I did not. And one last thing about Drake Maye, since I guess this is now we're just glazing Drake Maye. Like at different points of the season, like Kayshon Boutte was someone people were really, really talking about. And like, with all due respect, like, come on, like that has to be, in my opinion, due to that quarterback. You talked about Pop Douglas sticking out. Just everyone, like Kyle Williams has had his moments. Like everyone in that room has had great performances. And I think that speaks a lot to the fact that they've all been getting those great performances from the same guy at the QB position. So I just think it's for a second-year player, we just don't see it like that very often. In fact, a lot of the times they take kind of a step down, CJ Stroud-like in that second year. But just looking at everything with Drake Maye, as much as I want him to not – well, I want the Patriots to not be good. As much as I don't want to see another dynasty forming here, unfortunately, I kind of feel like that's what we're watching in New England.
Well, you know, New England Patriots fans have suffered so much. They had to go through the whole Mac Jones era, and they lost Bill Belichick. I mean, there are first graders in New England that have never seen their team win a Super Bowl. So that's hard to live with. I think so. They're definitely preschoolers.
2018, didn't they?
So that was – either way, that's less than 10 years ago. So we went from the Patriots dynasty to the Chiefs dynasty, and we might be back in another Patriots dynasty, which is crap. Crap. I hate it. But they know what they're doing over there in New England. Mike Brown should take notes. Before we move on from the Patriots and Jets, I do want to shout out one of my favorite NFL players of all time, guy who at recess – when we're playing football, you know, you'd always implement you'd always be like, I'm this guy, or at least we did. We'd pretend to be different NFL players, NFL stars. Gronk was my guy whenever I was tight end. I loved being Gronk. And growing up in Indiana at that time, it was the Colts Patriots rivalry. with Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, even Andrew Luck had that as well. But Gronk was just such a beast. He was so fun to watch. He retired as a Patriot on Wednesday, officially, first ballot Hall of Famer. In my opinion, he is the greatest tight end of all time. I don't know where you stand on all that, but congratulations to Rob Gronkowski. Just phenomenal player, someone who I loved watching growing up, and congrats to him. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Rob Gronkowski. You were probably on the negative end of Rob Gronkowski a lot more than I was growing up, but
Gronkowski, the Buccaneers legend. That's how I will remember him, as the Buccaneer he was. Won a Super Bowl with them. Well, yeah, definitely one of the best tight ends of all time. I don't want to comment on like if he's number one because I haven't really given that much thought. But yeah, very dominant tight end, and he really brought a lot to that position that they didn't have in that era without him. Like, there's not a whole lot of tight ends in those early parts of his career who were doing what he was doing. There was older guys kind of leaving the league, but through his time, he was very consistently the face of that position for the NFL.
Yeah, he was just such a great player. So fun to watch. He's funny too. I think he's hilarious. But there you go. Rob Gronkowski, Buccaneers legend. We'll make Stan happy here. But yeah, just shout out Rob Gronkowski. Now we can move on from New England Patriots related stuff. Although Gronk, if you hear this somehow and you want to come on the show, shoot me an email. Would love to have it. Next up, Stan and I we're gonna have a little debate here, and I bring this up because last year I said this about Caleb Williams, and I got accused of being some things that I am not, and I still stand by what I said. And I've talked to Bears fans who actually agreed with me last year. So, but I think I could be swayed still. But I think that the New York Giants need to consider benching Jaxson Dart for the rest of the season. Now, same as I said with Caleb Williams, it is not because I necessarily think he's bad. Actually, I love Jaxson Dart. I think Jaxson Dart's a fun player. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to be awesome for this league. I think if the Giants build around him correctly, he's going to be a big part of the franchise for a long time. That being said, he has played in 7 games? And he's been in the concussion protocol 4 times. And he's missing on Sunday because of a concussion. Jameis Winston is starting for him. My concern, and as it was with Caleb Williams, do you want to set your quarterback back in already have 4 potential concussions? I think we only have 1 diagnosed, but still, being in the protocol 4 times in 7 games, that's bad, obviously. Cam Scatterbo's already out for the year. Darius Slayton is out for who knows how long. Malik Neighbors is out for the year. I mean, the Giants aren't going to, do anything playoff-wise this year. We know that. I guess I don't see the point of having Jaxson Dart out there. You know that Jaxson Dart is going to be your franchise guy. You know what you have in him. I just don't want to see him get hurt and, potentially what happens. I said this with Caleb Williams. Again, it's the exact same point, just with a new guy. What happens if Jaxson Dart, gets hurt week 15 and then you lose it and it's a bad injury and you lose him for half of next season? So, Stan, I know you disagree with that, but I want to hear your points.
Yeah, a couple of notes on that. I mean, I'd start by just asking, when it comes to injuries, it's not something you can predict so much, right? And with Jaxson Dart, it's more, in my opinion, it's more so because of his play style being somewhat of a reckless player, similar to Scatterbo, where that I think is what's leading to the issues here. So coach him differently. His OC is now his head coach. Coach him differently, but don't take him out of the games for a couple of reasons. One is that I don't think it helps his development. Even if it doesn't hamper it, I don't think it's going to help it. With the concussions, You get concussions in practice. You get concussions from all types of things. I got a concussion because I dropped a picture frame up there on my head, right? Like things like that happen all the time. My point is you can't bench the kid who wants to play. Jaxson Dart wants to be on the field. You can't hamper his development by taking him out for all of this time.
Okay, yeah.
And my a second follow-up point is like what like there's a reason why no franchises do this. Like why don't the Titans just bench Cam Ward? They'll get a better draft pick. They'll do they're gonna win just as many games by benching him. Why don't they bench Cam Ward? I think it's you got to keep your best players on the field. Let them play it out. And there also is something to be said about more film on Jaxson Dart, more film on any of these guys. What it does is if they're good enough, it leads to you getting better free agents. Like we've seen this time and time again. There's different tiers of free agents. Like you're going to have the top like 3 or 4 are going to try to go for the max contracts in like the wide receiver room, let's say, right? Then you have the bottom guys who they're going to go on the prove-it deals. But in the middle there, that's where you find your value. That's where you get, your pieces who are going to be your wide receiver 3, 4, 2, fill out most of your roster. And those guys are going to look for teams they could win at. That's what we've seen time and time again. So if you have Jaxson Dart and you could win 2, 3 more games on this season, you could put some better tape out there, and you can give the kid who wants to play more time to do that, more time to feel the NFL, to get used to the speed of the game. I think that's only a good thing. Now, if he gets injured, again, it's just such an unpredictable thing. I think you just have to work more with how he plays. I would try to get him in one of those concussion caps, but I have a feeling he's going to say no to that. Though, yeah, just change the way he plays, change the way you treat that playbook rather than take him out of the games. I think taking him out could only hinder his development.
Yeah, sorry. I was picturing you trying to hang a picture frame over your head on like a ladder in almost like a Three Stooges situation where it's real shaky, and that image made me chuckle. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and I do understand that argument. I think that the pushback I would have about Cam Ward is I don't know that the Tennessee Titans, I mean, obviously they drafted him first overall. They're going to give him as many chances as possible. But I don't know that we are as certain about what Cam Ward is as we are about what Jaxson Dart is. Cam Ward has an interception problem. Cam Ward, he presumably will be the future of the franchise. I do like Cam Ward, but he still has things to work on. So does Jaxson Dart. But Jaxson Dart, I feel like we can more for certain say the New York Giants are going to build around Jaxson Dart. He is the future of this team. Cam Ward, I feel like could still be in that Anthony Richardson type conversation where he's a super athletic player, super gifted physically player, but doesn't quite, understand the game at the NFL level. I hope not. I hope Cam Ward, balls out next season or the rest of this season, but we aren't as certain about that. And I love Jaxson Dart, and I think to your point of getting as much film on him, maybe changing his playing style to be more safe, I think that's all good points. But also, what about your point last week where you said, there's the potential that Jaxson Dart could have 3 coaches in 2 seasons? Do you want him to go through that change? If we're talking about changing his playing style, you go from Brian Dable to Mike Kafka to whoever they hire next year. If it's not Mike Kafka, that could hamper it as well. So maybe benching him now could, kind of hold that back a little bit or prevent that from being as confusing.
I mean, if they don't start him, it's not like he's not going to be learning the same playbooks and practicing the same plays and getting ready to be on the field, let alone the fact that he wants to be out there. He wants to play. So I don't think that really makes as much of a difference. But going back to the first thing you said he played something like 7 games and has been on the concussion protocol 4 times. That is an issue that is going to affect his career no matter what. He has to change the way he plays if he's going to get beyond his rookie contract, right? No one who is getting on your concussion protocol, half of their games is going to have a decent career in the NFL. right? And concussions too, every time you get one, it means you have a higher chance of getting one in the future, and it means the ones in the future are going to be worse, right? That's an issue that compounds on itself. So I think it is a very important thing. If the Giants want to make a push next year, want to get, whichever head coach they want in, and be able to make that jump, because they're not a very far off team the way that roster is constructed from being able to compete. So they're going to want to make that push ASAP. Jaxson Dart's current play style is not conducive towards making that push. It's not conducive towards a playoff run, let alone being able to have a career with the Giants. So you need to get him out there, because you have to find out what works for Jaxson Dart. How can we utilize his skills, utilize his physicality, but not lead to him getting on the concussion protocol every other week? That's a very important question. I think we need to, look at it in that context.
So what would you tell him if you were the coach? Like, would you tell him to not run the ball as much? Would you tell him to throw the ball away more? What would your ideas be to prevent that?
I think it's more about scheme than anything else. I don't really have any, I don't know the answer. No one's been paying me millions of dollars to figure that out. But I don't know. I think it comes down to him as a player. The thing about Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow had a big issue with getting hits in, the first 2 years of his career, maybe just the first year. But I remember that being an issue, big issue his rookie year. But now it's not nearly as much of an issue. So whatever they did with Joe Burrow, maybe you look into that and try to find ways for him to avoid the hard hits.
Okay, yeah, I like Jaxson Dart. He was my favorite quarterback coming into the draft. He's fun to watch. Part of it's because of the reasons that we've been saying he needs to do less of with his playing style. But I love the Giants rookie class. I think they've got a lot of great players. I just want to see Jaxson Dart have a long career. So I guess that's part of my concern. We'll see what happens. Jameis Winston, real quick, what do you think? What version of Jameis Winston do you predict we are going to get on Sunday against the Packers?
Well, he's going to be fun, as he always is, and he's probably going to throw a couple picks and a few touchdowns. He has a pretty tough room he's working with. You talked about the injuries to that wide receiver room, so it's not the best situation for him in that sense. But like Jameis Winston, at the very least, he's a very exciting player to watch every single game.
Theo Johnson about to go off, but let's move on. Let me know your thoughts down below about Jaxson Dart being benched. I'll probably clip this video. So let me know down below what you think about Jaxson Dart. Should he be benched for the rest of the season? Should he not? Be nicer than some of you were with the Caleb Williams thing. Hurt my feelings a little bit. No, I don't care. But moving on. The Cincinnati Bengals, led by Joe Flacco. It's true that Joe Burrow's coming back eventually, we think, possibly by Thanksgiving. But Joe Flacco says he doesn't care. He ain't worried about that. He's got games to win. And the Bengals have kind of started a game of themselves, it appears, where they see how many points the offense can put up and still lose the game. I believe the record is currently 38. Yes. Oh, no, excuse me. The record is 42. 38 it was the Jets. 42 was the Bears. So we put up 42 points and still lost a football game. But last time they played the Steelers, they did beat the Steelers. They play the Steelers again on Sunday. They have no Trey Hendrickson, have no Joe Burrow. So both kind of leaders on both sides of the defense. Going to have to see the defense step up in some capacity. Chase Brown is probably going to have another big game like he did against the Steelers the first time. And I will say the Bengals did not have Trey Hendrickson the last time they played the Steelers, I believe. So that is notable. But they also don't have Shamar Stewart. So we're going to need to see someone step up in that pass rush, whether it's Myles Murphy, Joseph Asai. The guy I'm really looking at is a name that many people do not know. He's a rookie from last year. Second-year player, has been injured. I think he got like 10 snaps against the Bears. Cedric Johnson, he looked good against the Bears. I don't know why he didn't get more snaps because this pass rush is terrible. And, he had some moments where it actually looked like he was getting through. And this could be a guy who, if he is successful in the NFL, that can be someone Duke Tobin can hang his hat on. And so Cedric Johnson needs to get more playing time, and I think the fans want him to get more playing time from what I've seen online. A lot of fans are very big fans. That makes sense, of Cedric Johnson. And so I want to see more of him. And they're going to have to put Aaron Rodgers, make him go mobile. But don't let him run for 20 yards again like he did last time, because that's just embarrassing, guys. Don't let a 42-year-old quarterback run for 20 yards on you in one play. That's just sad. The secondary is going to need to step up. Going to need to see some turnovers like we did last time. Maybe DJ Turner steals another ball from DK Metcalf, and that was a beautiful play. But it's crazy. The Bengals are still in this. And Joe Burrow thinks they're going to make the playoffs. Joe Burrow has said the division's wide open. There's a lot of football to be played. We can still do it. So if the Browns steal a game from the Ravens and then the Bengals beat the Steelers, that helps out a lot. Stan, I don't know if you have any thoughts initially about this game, about what you're going to be watching for, or just anything that I've said, but you feel free to give your piece right now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a big moment for the Bengals. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if they win this, they would only be one game behind top in the division, right?
Let me pull up the state. It's 1 or 2. It's very close. So if the Bengals win, they will be 4-6, and the Steelers will be 5-5. So yes, I think if it'd be one game back to tie with them. But if the Ravens win and the Steelers lose, they will be tied for first. So that's kind of, we're getting into this area where it's all real tight. The Browns are the only team that's kind of far back at 2-7. They're one game behind the Bengals right now, but they could potentially, get their name back into there as well. This division is very wide open, and we're talking about that going into Week 10, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that division has been one of the more enjoyable ones. Teams just jumping around the last probably, 5 years, 4 years? Like, there's been a lot of exciting football play there towards the end of the season. Going into this game, I do expect the Steelers to pull out on top. Even in their bad games, I think their defense would be good enough to slow down Joe Flacco enough, and their offense with DK Metcalf out there can be dominant enough to score enough points on this team. I mean, the Jets, Justin Fields was able to cook the Bengals. I don't see why Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers can't do the same. So I think I do expect it to be a win for the Steelers. But, yeah, maybe you're right, and it'll be a little closer than I expected to be.
I mean, I think it was Adam Rank last time they played, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was. He had the Bengals scoring 0 points, and obviously that's not how that went. The Bengals ended up beating the Steelers, but that was a home game for the Bengals. This one's going to be an away game. So it's going to be different. It's going to be harder. Pittsburgh is a rowdy fan base. That is a hostile environment for the Bengals. You've been to a Steelers game, right? When we were at Steubenville? Okay, yeah. So you've been in that environment. You've seen that environment. I've seen that environment. So it will be difficult, and you've lost Trey Hendrickson. You've lost your first-round pick. So it'll be interesting to see, coming off the bye week, who on the defense steps up. We've been, and I've been saying this, feels like for a month now, we've been seeing them say, or hearing them say, someone needs to step up on defense. Someone's going to step up on defense. Well, let's see someone step up on defense. What did you do during the bye week? Hopefully it was all just tackling drills. Hopefully it was all just figuring out how to get guys on the ground. We don't need to peanut punch every play. Just get the guy on the ground, that Colston Loveland play was hopefully a wake-up call for some of the DBs at the end of the Bears game, and we will see what happens. But this is the most like anti-Zach Taylor season ever. Usually Zach Taylor struggles against the division, and he struggles to start the season off well. Well, he started the season 2-0, and he's currently undefeated against the division. So he's struggling everywhere else where he doesn't usually struggle. We'll see how he does on Sunday. It'll be an interesting game, but I think Zach Taylor's coaching for his job at this point, which means Al Golden is also coaching for his job, hopefully. So wish Chuss isn't here once again, so we can't get his thoughts, but we know Joe Burrow's thoughts, and that's that this is a playoff team. So maybe Joe Burrow's delusional. I don't know. He's a crazy man. Any other thoughts on that game?
No, I think we've said it all.
Yeah, there's a lot of repeated storylines on that one until the Bengals actually figure out how to play defense. But we'll move on here. We've got Adam Thielen, who we've talked about before. He's back with the Vikings, and he issued a statement on a radio show. I forget which radio station it was. I presume it's one out of Minnesota. Let me see here if I can get this radio station up. Get them their credit. KFan 1003. Yeah. Oh, KFan 100.3 FM. So sports channel, sports radio. Adam Thielen, what a guy. Been in the league for a while. Very respected player. Respected wide receiver. He says that the NFL refs need to stop being fanboys and that they need to be full-time employees. So I looked into this because I was under the opinion that the NFL refs were full-time employees, at least during the NFL season, which based on my brief research, they are. During the NFL season, they are basically essentially full-time employees. Now, some of them do have part-time jobs like during the spring, but I saw Sarah Thomas speak a year or two ago. She was in Fort Wayne, and I went to go hear her talk. And she talked about like how they, have the game, but then they do their own film review and they do all this other stuff. And I've been critical of the refs as well, but I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts, Stan, on this. And his full quote that I found was, "They love the fact that they get to go out there and shake hands with Mahomes, hang out with professional athletes. Then they go to their real job on Monday through Friday and tell everybody how cool their side of the job is." Now, obviously Adam Thielen is closer to the NFL than we are, so he may know something we don't, and that's fine. But what are your thoughts on this, Stan? Do you think
it is true. A lot of them do work other jobs. A lot of them are like high-power executives, CEO, level C-suite guys out there. So they do often work other jobs, especially in like banking and finance for whatever reason. But on the topic of like officiating itself, I think the brokenness of the system comes from the fact that there's no consistency with it. The director of NFL officiating basically gets recycled every couple of years, and we see a completely new group of referees at the top of that, because those guys will get paid, like whoever the director is, will get paid bajillions of dollars to go and work for Fox or CBS or NBC as the like rules analyst for those news media organizations. So that's one of the bigger issues with it, that you get these new systems every couple of years for the way that officiating is conducted. With the older system, a lot of it was focused on movement. A lot of it was focused on what the ref was doing rather than the call itself. To my understanding, the new system is back to grading refs based on their actual calls rather than their movements or what they're doing before the calls. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. But I think until the NFL can create some sort of consistency for the top of the refereeing structure, I think there's going to be a lot of issues with reffing.
Do you see an issue with? Do you agree with Thielen that these refs are, probably just going off to work, like messing up players? Like, basically, do you agree with what he's saying? I guess is what I'm asking.
I mean, I think it could be an issue. I don't know how much of it is going on in the way he describes, because if they're just working another job to get some cash, get some retirement savings up, there's nothing wrong with that. It would really depend on what the system is. The NFL does not pay refs. Well, most sports don't pay refs enough. And with the current NFL landscape where sports betting is such a big issue, you can't watch a game without seeing like 30 ads for different sports betting groups. So that is a bit of a worrisome thing to me, where there's a lot of an increase of like crossover with the refs talking about games with their coworkers, with their families. But I haven't seen any reports of it being the issue in the way it seems that Thielen is describing it. So I wouldn't worry too much about it for now. I know with some other sports in the U.S., we're seeing a lot of like sports gambling issues being unearthed. And maybe we will see some bombshells with the NFL dropping soon. But as long as none of that is happening, I don't have any issue per se with the NFL allowing refs to have a second job.
Okay. Yeah, I do think it's an interesting discussion that needs to be had. I tried to find how much NFL refs are paid. I couldn't find an exact number. Sports Illustrated, in the article I found, speculated that it was up to $200,000 a year, which was plenty for me, I think. But maybe not for some other people. I guess it's interesting. It's an interesting point, and it's interesting to hear a veteran player like Adam Thielen, who we don't really hear a lot from usually, kind of make this call out so publicly. So we'll see what happens with him. He might have some fines coming his way. The NFL does like to fine people for this type of thing, but I do think he brings up an excellent point. Before we go, I have now been in contact with Miss Hannah, and I have received permission to show the photo that I was talking about. So Stan has some friends, and I'm friends with them as well, who are Patriots fans. And Hannah made buffalo chicken dip, and this is what she put on the crock pot. It says, "You must say I heart Drake Maye to have buffalo chicken dip." Now, Stan, I'm under as you said before, you did not follow this rule because you said it was your apartment and you don't need to follow these rules.
Yes.
No. Did you receive any flack for not following these rules?
No, and quite frankly, it was a bogus rule created to disrespect me and my character. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this.
Disrespected you and your character?
Yeah, it was an attempt by the media to discredit me.
The media? Oh my gosh!
The media, the government, lots of organizations.
Oh man, I didn't know you were so popular.
I think there was some Illuminati involved in that as well.
Oh boy, we got a lot of accusations. We're just going to add allegedly to all of that. Everything he just says is alleged. No, I don't want to be in any lawsuits here. Everything's alleged. Hannah, please don't sue us. But I do think that's funny that she did that. So shout out to Hannah if you are listening. You should be listening. You told me you were going to listen, so don't be a liar. But if you don't have anything else to say about anything, do you? Or you?
I mean, nothing much. Just the primetime slots coming up kind of suck. So I think this will be a slower week football-wise, but we'll see.
Eagles versus Lions is good.
That one is, but the last three of them were kind of bad.
Oh yeah, but Eagles versus Lions will be good, hopefully.
We're at the slow part of the season, I think, for primetime coverage. But once we hit that flex schedule, get to the Thanksgiving games, I think it's going to get really exciting really fast.
Oh, the Bengals play on Thanksgiving. That's going to be Be a good game. See how many points the defense can let up on Thanksgiving, on Turkey Day. But I'm going to keep saying it. If the Bengals defense is mad about it, don't allow points. But yeah, that's how we're gonna go out. But I do think that Sunday Night Football game, Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Cooper DeJean, that's just gonna be a fun one, I think, to watch. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Stan, for joining us. As always, it is appreciated. And before we go out, I just want to remind you all, 96% of our watch time is coming from non-subscribers. So if you support us, thank you so much. We do appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss anything. I'll continue to update stuff as we continue to learn it. And once again, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Takes you 5 seconds, helps us out immensely. And until next time, go do something nice for someone.